a foreign entity or the work of an adversary. We're going to continue to monitor what is happening, but at no point were our installations threatened when this activity was occurring. Can you rule out that these are American drones or U.S. military drones? These are not U.S. military drones. Again, this is being investigated by local law enforcement. What our initial assessment here...
Around here. What if there were 3,000 reports of drones or manned aircraft sightings over the U.S. Capitol, or the White House, or the State House in Albany? What would happen? There would be an immediate and intense response to figure out what they were and to solve the problem. And yet, millions of people around here, New Jersey, of course, here in Staten Island, and beyond, are getting nothing but don't believe what you see. You know, there's a saying that we had after 9/11, if you see something, say something. I think that's become, if you see something, don't worry about it, because we saw it too. And the people of Staten Island deserve answers.
Ago said that he's witnessed them as well. Went to the beach area with New Jersey residents, saw over 50 of these orbs coming out of the ocean, flying up to the sky. Like, what in the heck are these things? We can't get answers. Who knows? Why are they flying over nuclear installations? What the heck are they doing? Congress is trying to get answers as we speak. This just from just a few minutes ago on Capitol Hill. Why don't you shoot these things down? Watch.
Here. Is that something that would be hard to do? And then why do you need to intercept data in order to do that?
Photos of these orbs also now being published. Do those look like drones to you?
No, they look like embryos.
Yeah, they look like some sort of embryo or some sort of massive, I don't know, circular orb with some sort of field around them, hovering. And this is what we're seeing now. So, again, also other eyewitnesses seeing these sort of like wheel within a wheel. Like something like right out of the Bible. Look at these. This is over New Jersey. Does that look like some sort of any kind of a drone that you've ever seen before? Well, the problem is we don't know because no one's telling us. And even in front of Congress, they're not. So that drawing's like a wheel within a wheel, like Ezekiel, right? I mean, you have drawings like this going back thousands of years, by the way. Some of these from the 1600s right here. These sort of wheel within a wheel in the sky. What are these things? Okay, who knows? Go ahead.
Guys, welcome back to the channel. I hope you guys are having a great Friday evening as we get ready to go into the weekend. And so today we're going to talk about, well, if you live out in New Jersey, some people are saying this is happening all over the world. We're going to talk about these New Jersey Drive drones, right? That's a play on a old movie called New Jersey Drive, right? So as we get started here today, I just want to say that topic-wise, right, this might be one of the most important YouTube channels on YouTube, right? And the reason I'm saying that is some of the things we're talking about, they might be some of the most important things that's going to impact everybody, or it might just be something that's earth or universe shattering that we're going to talk about today. But we're also going to talk about a little bit of human psychology and why certain reactions go the way they go, and why human beings tend to act the way they act, especially in situations like this where we could be facing something universe shattering, or it could just be another day at the park, another hoax, so on and so forth. But here's the bigger question, right? What these kind of incidents show us is that whether this turns out to be something or nothing, what it shows us is it gives us an accurate picture of how human beings will react to this. Because keep in mind, we won't know if incidents like this are real or not, or how severe they are or not. The only thing we can be certain on is how we react to them. And this gives us a window into exactly how we would act if this turned out to be a alien invasion, if it turned out to be a foreign adversary, World War III situation, right? Or whatever the case may be. If it just turned out to be some crazy people with drones, with nuclear weapons in them, with viruses in them, whatever the case is, this is how we would react to these situations. So, many of you who watch the channel know I talk about universal basic income. I think it's one of the most important ideas in human history, right? As we advance with automation and as we advance with robots, right? The thing that seems almost just common sense, logical to me is that the pace of these machines will replace human workers, that will create these artificial minds, and there will become a situation where humans will be obsolete in just about every area of humanity that exists, right? Even relationships, right? They are creating these companion robots and such. So I say all that to say this, right? That this is how unprepared we are. With whether we're talking about an alien invasion, a foreign adversary invasion, whether we're talking about an artificial intelligence apocalypse, where we don't know what to do when people are put out of jobs by all these robots. And what we tend to do, right, and here's the big issue with this, right, even when I discuss universal basic income, what we tend to do is we go back to watching Netflix. We we go ahead and go to the grocery store. We go pick up the kids from soccer practice. And I know there's only so much you can do. You can only get on with your life and live. But what we need to understand is that the government is by the people, meaning that these people that we contact up in Washington, D.C., or even at our local politics level, are people just like you and me, and we're putting our lives in their hands. And what I'm saying is that we have to be proactive on issues like this, all of us, right? We can't ignore these things and go watch Netflix, right? We can't, if a robot's going to replace your work, right? You can't just kind of go, oh, well, I'll just wait till it happens and, react from that. Not the best way to prepare for that. That's no different than if this turns out to be an alien invasion or a foreign adversary, how we would react to that, right? So with all that said, let's get into this story a little bit about the drones and such. Let's get into this. What exactly is going on and what are we seeing? And what is this weird thing with a mask on, segmented, fragmented, whatever this is? And we're going to talk about that. So the first part is, what are these things or what could they be, right? So it's kind of funny that with technology and with something as serious as this flying around in our skies, with instruments where we can see into the next galaxy, right, and see planets orbiting stars. They had a very impressive telescope that showed basically a planet orbiting a star outside our solar system. And I said, wow, that's amazing. How are they able to do that? Now, they can see all these things, but they can't even see a few feet up into the sky for us to get a clear picture of what these drones actually look like. Has anybody seen what these drones actually look like yet? Has there been any clear pictures? I mean, like clear pictures, clear photos, right? Because as we got to see in the beginning of the video, some of these things don't look like drones at all, right? Some people are saying that, these things look kind of organic looking, right? That they come out of the sea, right? They come out of the ocean. It's almost like a base in the ocean. The senator was talking about a mothership, but he was saying that it was housing Iranian drones, right? The Pentagon denied all that as we got to see. But the thing is, when he speaks of mothership, right, is he talking about some kind of aircraft carrier or ship? And why wouldn't the United States be able to see this thing, right? So, and if they did see it, wouldn't they just tell Iran to move it or blow it up or sink it? So, this is becoming one of these situations where we're going to get more questions, it looks like, than answers. And some of the answers we think may be true, the more we delve into them, the more they seem to appear to be not answers, but actually bring up more questions than answers. Okay, so first let's talk about some ideas of what the drones could be, right? And I think just about everybody online has covered some of them, but I think I'm going to move it a little bit in a direction I haven't heard an idea for this, or what, or it hasn't been talked about a lot, but interesting enough, it could be this. So the first thing it could be, we're going to go with the most obvious things, or the things that are probably more likely than not, and that is these could be United States testing a new drone technology, right? Now, what are some problems with that? The first problem with it being the United States is that if this is secret, if this is to be secretive, to the point that the United States can't even say, hey, we're testing these drones in the sky that everybody can see. Well, the next move would have probably been for the United States to draw back the drones, right? You start to see less and less drones, to put out more baloney stories, to do more press conferences, right? You would think that there would be a reaction if people were getting that close to seeing these things. And, it's like when we see a secret spy plane, you don't see it too often before the government either wants to move it, or they either wants to move it to an area, a restricted area, where they're willing to shoot you if you come out there. So for them not to do that, that makes me think the Pentagon's telling the truth, that these aren't United States drones, right? Technology and so on. Let's go with the next thing that it could be. A foreign adversary, right? Meaning it could be Iran, it could be China, it could be Russia, right? So the thing is, let's think about this for a moment. If it was China, Iran, or if it was Russia, the United States government then would probably assume that's who it was, and they would probably just shoot it down like they shot down the Chinese balloons, spy balloons, right? Now, the reason that they wouldn't shoot it down, the only reason they wouldn't shoot it down is probably because they can't shoot it down, right? Which would mean it has some kind of technology that can avoid our defenses, right? The speed they're moving, something tells me they can shoot them down. They just don't know what they're shooting down, and so they're probably afraid of what happens if they do shoot it down. But it also tells me that they don't think it's Russia or China, or Iran. And so that would be the problem with a foreign adversary, that they probably would have shot it down and looked at this stuff and tried to figure out what it was, right? But seeing that they really believe it's not a foreign adversary, then they would fear the repercussions of what would happen if they shot down an unknown entity, what it would mean with this thing that at this point in time seems non-threatening. Would it then become threatening, right, by that action? This is, okay, the third, I was going to say that this is the last thing it could be, but I'm actually going to say this is the third thing it could be. I'm going to go into a fourth thing, right? So the third thing it could be is aliens from another world, right? The alien idea, right? We just recently had congressional hearings. Okay, so this is a scene from the 1977 film Close Encounters of the Third Kind, one of Steven Spielberg's finest films, right? And the reason I'm having you take a look at this, right, is because you guys probably remember this scene, the famous car chase scene where the police are chasing these UAPs or UFOs, as they were called at the time. But I want to bring your attention to something quite interesting, right? As they're flying down the road, right? Isn't this interesting that the drones are described as car size, right? And you had these car size UFO crafts, right, flying down the road. But here's something also very interesting that is kind of similar to what we get with the drone activity. That they have these like FAA lights, right? These different color lights, right? You know how they say the drones are, oh, it's probably humans or it's probably something like that. You know, well, if it was if it wasn't alien civilizations, then it would they wouldn't have like, you know, FAA lights. They wouldn't have like, you know, the type of lights that we see on normal aircraft, right? You know, in the night sky, right? And would they even need lights, right? With that kind of technology, couldn't they kind of be cloaked, or couldn't they just see through a dimensional window, a dimensionless window, or something like that, or use instruments? Like, would they really, would a civilization this advanced even need light? So the reason I'm bringing all this up is because a lot of what happened in Close Encounters of the Third Kind was that the lights were used as ways to communicate with human beings, right? They use light and sound, right, to communicate, because, you know, maybe they didn't speak a language or whatever, but or for whatever reason, that's why they did it. I just found it interesting that the movie and the research that was done through the movie, which was based on a lot of real life UFO encounters and such, I found it quite interesting. Remember, this is 1977. This is before drones. This is way before a lot of the things we have today. But I just found it interesting that with all the research that went into this film, with some of the greatest UFOologists out there counseling this film and stories that preceded this era, that they chose to create these car-sized UFOs, right? Because remember, a lot of times these aliens are described to be only about 3 feet tall. So what that means then, that something car-sized would be probably like a normal size flying vehicle for you know, for them, if they're like 3 feet tall, 3-4 feet tall, right? So anyways, yeah, I just find it interesting. Why this depiction of a craft? This kind of would look like a modern day drone, right? If you looked up at the night sky, right? So I just found that very interesting. So that's the third thing it could be. It could be an alien civilization finally coming out. Some are even saying that, or maybe a breakaway civilization coming out of the Atlantic Ocean, that they've been living up under that water because there's so much space under there. They can inhabit the planet underwater. No, we not even know they're there, right? We not even know they've been living here, right? So all of that could happen. And so yeah, that's interesting. So the light thing could not necessarily mean that they're not alien life, right? The aliens might like lights as well. So let's get into the fourth thing of what these things could be. And this is the fourth. This is the one a lot of people don't think about, or they don't think about quite in this way. All right. So the fourth idea of what these things could be comes from the story turned television series, The Peripheral, right? And what this is about people that are from the future that use what would be, you might want to think of it like a quantum computer. You might want to think of it like a futuristic internet, where when they communicate across the internet, they actually communicate through time. So because they can talk to people in the past, and the people in the past can talk to people in the future, they can also send information from the future to the past. And one such bit of information they send is information on how to create future technology in the past. Now, this future technology sent to the past can operate technology in the future, and vice versa, right? So that means people from the future can send information for technology to be used in the past to people who occupy the past, right? You can't actually go to the future past, and that's what I like about the idea, because you don't have to get into all the time travel wormholes and stuff. Just kind of think of something like a quantum computer sending information and data back and forth, right? The earlier image I showed of the fragmented head, that actually comes from the peripheral as well, right? So just to kind of give an example of what that could be, that could be anything, because if you have the information to create future technology here, then it would be doing futuristic things in the past, right? In the present. But it could also be something as simple as operating equipment in the past from the future, or creating future equipment in the present or the past, right, to them. So that's what the peripheral is about. This is actually a futuristic device she's using to communicate with people in the future, and not just communicate. Then you can also create avatars, right? And then if you can create avatars, then you can create robots which you can control that look like people, and so you can almost kind of occupy 3D space in the future or pass through these robots and such, right? Now, what we found interesting earlier in the video when we was looking at scenes of what they were actually capturing photo-wise, because again, we've never actually seen these drones right up close or got pictures. Even like people who they're flying over their heads, they're describing them. They look like drones, right? But they're not. They don't have a clear picture. Like nobody sketched a picture or shown actually what these things look like. About 3 hours ago, allegedly one crashed, and the news team, right, like 17 black SUVs showed up for a crash. There was no actual footage of the drone. So if this was like a normal looking drone, like a normal today image drone, why didn't they show it? They don't show the drone. Now, when people are capturing these things, the videos that they've turned in, up close ones, have been these like orb organic looking things creating these blue fields, and sometimes they seemingly blink out of existence. Now, this is, if you know who Bob Lazar is, who apparently worked on this technology, he said it was like 1 million years old, right? He would describe that these things switching in and out of dimensions because they flew on a certain frequency, right? Remember, when you're talking about higher dimensions, you could be talking about time travel as such. So when it appears they blink out of existence and blink back in, they could actually be phasing in and out of time, right? So that's kind of like what kind of happens in the peripheral in a sense, right? That you're communicating over space-time, but you're actually controlling technology and devices over space-time, right? Whereas if these aliens are more traditional time travelers, they could be phasing in and out as Bob Lazar described, right? And again, Bob Lazar was someone who worked at Area 51. Probably one of the most credible, crazy stories about aliens you've ever heard, right? Probably one of the first most credible people, I'd say that as well. But of course, since then, if we look at the timing of this, I think that's the most interesting part and concerning part, that we can kind of see that everything kind of hits the fan right after the congressional hearings, right? That right after we have these very credible, high government ranked, clearance-wise officials talking about non-human intelligence, talking about aliens, right? Talking about this futuristic technology, right? We've had these whistleblowers come forward, right? And the timing couldn't be more interesting. What does that all mean, right? So it could mean just another high government level technology cover-up, like some people believe they did in the 1940s when they were coming out with the U-2 spy planes, when they were coming out with the Blackbirds, when they were coming out with the B-52 bombers, right, the stealth bombers. Now they allegedly have a craft called the Aurora, which is kind of this triangle thing you keep seeing, people keep showing a lot. Some are saying those are highly advanced government aircrafts. Some people are saying they're based on alien technology. Some people are saying they're just advanced United States tech. Some people are saying they're alien tech. And so that's kind of condenses the four categories of what these things could be. Again, if this turn, at this point, we don't know, right? But it really doesn't matter that we don't know. What matters is we're in this situation and how we're reacting to it. You know, again, it's like what I say about this channel being talking about universal basic income. We hardly get any views on this channel, yet the topics are some of the most important on YouTube, right? That's a problem. That's problem number one, that a lot of content that we're consuming on YouTube when we're probably at the end of the world right now. Is that how the world's going to end? Is the world going to end for us with looking at weird stuff on Netflix and reality TV and things like that, and aliens physically in the sky, right? And heaven and hell coming back, and apocalypse coming, and us still being entertained by nonsense on our streaming services, right? Because if that's how it's going to end for us, or even begin for us, whatever it is, that's going to be pretty sad, guys. And that's something we really need to think about, how we're spending our time, right? That the world's coming. Then I know some people will say, well, if the world's coming to an end, we don't want to know anyway. We want to bury our head in the sand and such. And I can understand that as well, right? So all very interesting stuff. We still don't know what these things are, but we should be concerned about this, guys. We should be concerned about this because, number one, they don't know if these things are a danger to us or not. How can you know if something's a danger if you don't even know what it is? Number two, it doesn't seem they could do anything about them, because if they could do something about them, they probably would already, which could means they're defenseless against them, right? And listening to a lot of congressional testimony from high-ranking people like Commander Fravor, of Top Gun School, one of the best pilots in the Navy, him saying that what some of these crafts could do means that we couldn't defend against them anyway. They're faster than missiles. They phase in and out of existence. They can land on the White House steps, and we couldn't do anything about it. So when you think in terms like that, this is something we should be concerned about, at least at the level of communicating, at least with the government, as far as how we should proceed. But is it going to be one of those situations where they just never tell us and then everything just hits and we just find out because there's no choice but to find out, because the powers that are wanted us to find out and we have to deal with them as such? So I guess those are my thoughts on that. I hope that's giving you some description of what these things possibly could be. What can we do about it? Well, I would say take this time to really think about the content you consume, where your mind's at, what your priorities are, what's important to you, and being somewhat, if not physically prepared, mentally prepared for what these things could be. Could be nothing. People tell me all the time with universal basic income, you're just using a scare tactic that robots aren't going to take over. They're not going to take every job. We're not going to be unable to support ourselves because we're not going to be able to earn money because corporations and capitalism is going to not have a need for us. We had the port strike workers just a few months ago saying that they were going to stop all of the food and served goods coming into the stores, vital products we need, even medicines. And they were willing to hold up medicines where people could probably actually die to stop automation and technology from taking their jobs, which is probably going to happen anyway. But, still yet, that hasn't gone away. They will be renegotiating in 2025, and we're kind of still eating Cheetos and watching Netflix. And so that is a problem, folks. It is a problem as we, the people of the government, that our only action can be to wait and to eat Cheetos and watch Netflix and, be, basically caught up in this dreamlike sequence when we're supposed to be in charge of the government, right, and information. So that's very concerning. When we're supposed to be in charge of our future and protect and keep our family safe, to protect ourselves against robots and automations from taking our jobs, right? That's supposed to be our responsibility, not the people we send to Washington, D.C., especially when they're not doing their jobs. So those are some things to consider. That's all I want to say in this particular video. Think about the content you consume, the hours and energy and time you put into this. Is time you can't get back. Is very important. Time is life. And so make sure you choose wisely some of the content you watch. Until next time, as always, take care of yourselves and each other.